Hey everyone, welcome back to AFTV. This is a preview of the Lens-Arsenal game, the Champions League first away tie for Arsenal. Of course, we beat PSV 4-0 and we want to keep building on that momentum. There's a big game later this week against Man City, so we've got to explore a little bit how that game that's coming on Sunday maybe just casts a few considerations, I guess, going into this game. But first and foremost, let's get job done in the Champions League. Robbie, it's an away trip in the Champions League. It's been a long time. I know we did all the build up to the return of it, but I think there was a slight, not anticlimax. I mean, obviously the Emirates crowd were amazing, but it was PSV who we played last season. It was a home game. This is a big away tie in the Premier League, in the Champions League, and it's exciting. Yeah, no, very exciting. I'm going to be heading over there.
The great thing about this game is that it's very easy to get to.
Yeah.
As an Arsenal fan, if you live in the UK, I mean, you know, we were working it out that it's probably quicker to get to Lens than it is to get to Newcastle away.
Wow.
Or quicker.
Is that really how it's?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or quicker to, or just as quick as to get to Lens as it is to get to Burnley away, say. You know, because you travel down to Folkestone, get on the Euro tunnel, you can get your car on there, and then once you get over, that takes half an hour. Once you across the channel, you know, it's about, I think it's under an hour's drive to Lens. So I think there's going to be a lot of Arsenal fans there. I'm expecting a really cracking atmosphere in the ground. I remember watching a few Lens games last year. They had a brilliant season last year in the Ligue 1. And one of the reasons why they were so good was their home support. They had an excellent home support, really loud. And it's really a strange place because Lens only has a population of about 30,000 people, but their ground holds 38,000 people. It holds more in their stadium than the population of the actual town. But every time I saw them playing, they always had like a full house, you know what I mean? So it's not going to be an easy game. It reminds me a bit of when a few years ago when we played Rennes. And I remember going to that game, right? And when you was in Rennes and you were speaking to the locals, you got a sense that they were treating this game like a cup final. It was like, Arsenal, biggest ever game we've ever played is what some of the Rennes fans were saying to us. And I think this is going to be similar. So that means that all their players are going to be up for it. All their fans are going to be up for it. And we need to be up for it. And what you just said there about the Man City game, I hope that Mikel Arteta's not looking at that game and just focuses alone on this game. I want us to go with our strongest team.
Yeah.
I want us to go with our strongest team for this game. The only player I'd change if everybody's fit, the only player that I'm changing will be the goalkeeper. I'll probably put Ramsdale back in goal. And then the same team as what played on the weekend, because this is an important game for Arsenal.
No, it is. You're right. And you're right not to disrespect Lens. And you know, I think some people are thinking, oh, this is the worst team in the group. This is the team that we should feel most confident about. But absolutely not.
They drew Sevilla away.
That's the thing. They drew away 1-1 with Sevilla and put in a good performance. They earned that draw. They then went to, last season, finishing second, a point behind PSG as well. That is not easy to do, and fair play to them. But I think there's a great story around them. I think it's only in the last few years they even got promoted back to Ligue 1 and went toe to toe with PSG, as we mentioned there. They've lost some players. Seko Fofana, one of them as well.
Big player they lost there.
They brought in Elia Wahi, I believe, who you've covered a lot because obviously we talked about him on Transfer Daily.
I'll speak about him a lot. Arsenal were linked with him. Tottenham were linked with him. You know what I mean? A whole host of clubs in the Premier League were linked with him. It's kind of a surprise, actually, that he didn't end up back in the Premier League. Very similar to sort of like Balogun last season. That he's a very good player. Very quick, travels a lot with the ball and scores goals. And he will be a danger to Arsenal. I was watching Lens' game on Friday night. They played against Patrick Vieira's Strasbourg and beat them 1-0 away. And I know they've started the season slowly, but they're picking up now. And he scored in that game. So Arsenal going to have to keep a real close eye on him. It's going to be, as I said, it won't be an easy game. And I remember that time we went to Rennes, and we lost. You know what I mean? We got them back at home, but we lost. And so, these teams can catch us by surprise if we're not on it. But I get the feeling that we will be on it. Yeah,
I think we would be and absolutely should be. That is reminding me of some great stats that you were telling me just before recording. So that Rennes game, I believe, is the only away game we've lost in Europe in France. Is that right?
The only time in France that we've lost was against Rennes, and we played teams like PSG and But yeah, we lost that game that day, and I remember that day we were lackluster in that game, and they were on fire. The atmosphere was incredible. It will be like that on Tuesday, I'm telling you.
Well, it's a fascinating stat because you think how good PSG have been for the last 10 years and the money they spent on their squad and the players they've had. You think Monaco actually knocked us out that day, but it's because of the Emirates defeat, the 3-1. Actually, we went and won there. We went and got a draw. I remember Alexis Sanchez, I think, scoring away at PSG. So we've been doing our thing, but as you mentioned, Rennes was a 3-1 defeat. Another great stat, which I couldn't believe when you said it. Apparently, Lens was our first away game in the new formatted UEFA Champions League.
Yeah, first ever game.
25 years ago.
Yeah, first ever game. So
wow.
It's going to be.
It's funny how football works.
It is funny how football works, and now we're back in it, and we got them again. So, but yeah, it's going to be like a cup final to them. I feel. I feel that I feel that they'll be looking at this, even though Sevilla are a great side, right, with great European pedigree. But we all know in France, they look to the English teams, and they will look at Arsenal as being a major scalp, and it's a major game for them. And as I said, it will be ramped up 100 degrees over there with the atmosphere.
Yep.
So we're going to have to go there. I think a strong team, and the attitude has to be right. But I think so far, one of the pleasing things for me is that so far, away from home in particular this season, the attitude has been very good from Arsenal. We played very, very well. Another good victory at the weekend, winning 4-0. Another clean sheet. We've not conceded a goal away from home this season.
Yeah.
And again, that's another great. And I could actually see on Saturday when I was at that game at Bournemouth that once we went 2-3-0 up, you could see the defenders is almost we clean sheet.
Yeah.
Clean sheet.
Yeah.
Let's not concede clean. Because you could see they still put it in right till the end, and I love that attitude.
Oh, the work rate's phenomenal. Can I give you another stat that I've been flogging on? I did it on Forever Arsenal, and it comes from Tactical Insight. So if you're watching every bit of content, you'll have heard this for the third time now. Apologies, but in the 3 games away from home, Brentford, Palace, and Everton Bournemouth in the Premier League, in the first 30 minutes of games, the opposition have completed a combined 2 passes in our penalty area.
Wow.
So it just shows you how in the first 30 minutes, we are killing opposition hopes. We go and, like you said, it's Arsenal are in town, get the atmosphere going, get the energy going, let's stick it on them. And then you realise, hold on, we're nowhere near their goal. And I think Arsenal are going to need to have a similar thing here where Lens, again, you expect the atmosphere to be brilliant. They're going to stick it on us. They've got a striker who was in form last season, who they've just signed. And if Arsenal can get through that first 30 minutes and basically say, we're near our goal, guys, and we settle in, then Arsenal can have a foundation to play their football. They did that against Brentford as well in the Carabao Cup. And it's become a figure of this Arsenal team under Arteta.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how Lens approach this game, because when I watched them against Strasbourg on Friday, they allowed Strasbourg to have a lot of the ball.
Yep.
And sort of went with a counter-attack in. I get the feeling they'll do a similar thing against Arsenal, which again will hopefully play into our hands because we'll have a lot of control over the ball earlier on and maybe can take the sting out of the game. Because certainly, as I keep saying, I feel the atmosphere will be really good. It's their first game as well in the Champions League at home this season. So we saw last week with us, I mean, for our first game back in the Champions League, what it was like, the atmosphere and everything. It will be similar for them as well, what I mean? It's playing Arsenal, what I mean? That's huge for them.
Yeah, and their form is something not to read too much into, because like you mentioned, they did draw at Sevilla. That's an impressive result. I think even we'd be somewhat all right with the draw at Sevilla, because we know what they can do in Europe. They have won their last 2 games, but they are sitting lower down the table despite finishing second last season. So it's kind of difficult to gauge what you're going to get from Lens as well. You've got to play on the whole atmosphere thing and how it's such a big occasion. You just got to believe they're going to turn up, because why wouldn't they? Yeah,
you always have got to think about what's going to be the best they're going to bring. I mean, they have had a sort of, I think if you're a Lens fan, especially after what they did last season, you'd be probably a bit disappointed with the start to the season, even though they did win on Friday night. They've lost some big players. I mean, Seko Fofana, who again was being linked with a lot of clubs across Europe after his performances. He used to be at City back in the day, and he's a very, very good midfield player. I think he could have played in any of the Premier League teams, but he went to Saudi Arabia. Right? They offered him big money. He went to Saudi Arabia. So
yeah, he was a good age, 27, 28.
Yeah, he's a big miss for them though, because he was always sort of their driving force in midfield, and so they missed us. But they have, as I said, they made a couple of signings, and maybe those signings haven't quite kicked into gear yet. But there's always good players in France. In French football, there's always good players. There's unknown players that surprise you.
That's true.
So Arsenal, they've got to be on it, and I want a very strong team for that game. It's got to be the strongest possible team for me.
Yeah,
we don't play again till Sunday, and the game's on Tuesday. So I don't think even the resting part of it should really come into it unless someone's carrying an injury.
Yeah, I was, as we were doing Forever Arsenal, I started changing my mind where I said I would maybe take 2 or 3 out, and then I started realising, no, there's a big enough gap between...
Which 2 or 3?
Well, I was thinking like White for Tomiyasu, for example, Ramsdale for Raya, and then maybe like Nelson for Saka. So he's still going really strong. No. I just think Saka coming off 2 Premier League games in a row, looking injured. I know you were saying he's fine, don't worry. He probably is fine, but it's not a good sign.
He did get a little, he got his usual kick in.
He's trained, by the way. We actually do know that he's trained.
He's trained, and I had a feeling after that game, even though he hobbled off, I had the feeling that he's okay. I mean, they're not. I was looking at it, I was thinking, he's not twisted anything or any muscle injury. It's a knock, so he should be all right. Yeah. And if he's all right, he's got to play for me. He's an important player, as we've seen so far this season. He's been scoring goals, assisting. He's been very involved in everything good that we've done. So he needs to start. The interesting one might be, for me, maybe Trossard.
Yep.
Trossard was on the bench at the weekend, wasn't used. I thought that was quite significant because he's on the bench, not used. So maybe the manager's thinking, well, I don't really need to bring him on right now because we're sort of coasting this game. I'll keep him back for Tuesday, which would then maybe mean that we could put Gabriel Jesus down the middle and put Trossard on the left, and maybe sit out Eddie, have Eddie on the bench as an option to bring on. I think we could see something like that. And also, I would like to see Aaron Ramsdale. If this rotation thing is real, right? And I saw Aaron Ramsdale at the game, and I saw his dad. Lee was chatting to his dad and everything. And listen, naturally, he's disappointed that he's not starting games at the moment. But obviously, he's been very professional. You've seen him, still go to the crowd and clap them afterwards. Still clapping Raya on his performances. I'd like to see him play in this game. I think he's good enough, as we know, to play in any game. He won't let us down. He did very well the other day in the game against Brentford. So, if you rotate in, then let Ramsdale play this game, and then maybe when the weekend comes, it'd be very harsh to leave out Raya out of the game against Man City, because not actually he's only conceded he's conceded 2 goals, but he's not conceded a goal away from home so far this season. So,
I know what you mean. There's a couple you can play around with there, but we'll see. There will be a predicted 11 video out, so do go check that out. The other players that won't be involved, we understand obviously Jurrien Timber's still got this knee injury he's recovering from. Thomas Partey apparently also did train. Okay. So let's see if he's
It'd be great to
available.
have him back for City, wouldn't it?
I think... Especially because I understand what they're doing with Havertz and Vieira, but if you can get Rice and Partey in that midfield against City, would be brilliant. We mentioned that Saka's trained as well. Gabriel Martinelli. We don't know 100% sure what's going. We don't know 100% sure what's going on. Trossard, as you mentioned, was on the bench for Bournemouth. All that's left really is score predictions. What are you going for? Score
prediction. Listen, I think it's going to be a tight one. So a 1-0 wouldn't surprise me again. A 1-0 or a 2-0 to Arsenal, because I just think that I really do see how we're fighting to keep clean sheets at the moment, and we do look very, very organised away from home. And I think a 1 or a 2-0 I'm going for.
I will go 2-0. I went in for Arsenal. I'll stick with it. I can see us having some trouble, you know, having to do quite a bit of defending, having to come through it, having to, you know, I liken it to, like, you know, the Palace away game at the start of last season where we won 2-0 and that seems comfortable, but we had to do quite a lot of defending.
A lot,
we had our bit in the game where we dominated, we got the goal, then we had to weather a storm. I think it'll be something similar to that, but a 2-0 win away from home in the Champions League against anyone is a result you take. So I'd be very happy with that. Let's build on it and let's keep some clean sheets and keep getting points on the board, especially after Sevilla dropped points to Lens in the first game. So we've given ourselves a good platform to start.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I look on it and I say to myself, it's a very, very important game because if we go and win this game, and then the next home game's against Sevilla, right? Am I right?
I think so. You're right. Or away.
Is it away or? But if,
let's have a quick look.
But basically, if you win one away game, and then you win your 3 home games, you're there really.
Basically,
you're there. So if we could go away and win at Lens,
it's away.
Especially
24th
after
of October, away from home.
Yeah, especially after Lens drew with Sevilla. We go and get a win. We put ourselves in a great position in this group. We really do. We stretched out a little lead already. You know, so. That's why for me Mikel Arteta has to go with his strongest possible team. I don't even think he can even contemplate, you know, rotating players for rest. And I don't think he needs to because you know, unless someone's injured, you've got from Tuesday to Sunday to recover. That's a long time. And then even after that, it's an international break. So let's just go for these next 2 games, go full pelt.
You know what? I agree. I'm convinced. Everyone, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. How strong would you go for this game? Have you got the Man City game on your mind? And also, what do you think is just the best, I don't know, approach, formation, 11 that you think Arsenal are going to need to go past Rennes? Let's get you at Lens even. Sorry, Rennes, there we go. Thinking back to
Rennes
that.
on the brain.
That after that 3-1 defeat. We don't want any repeats of that in France. But yeah, let us know. Subscribe to AFTV. If you haven't yet, then you get updates on everything we're uploading, and there will be fan cams from all the way out in France and here in the AFTV studio as well. Coverage of the watch along, starting 11, all that, and full time where you can have your say by downloading the AFTV Plus app and joining us on Fan Zone. We'll see you very, very soon. Come on, Arsenal. Let's build on this Champions League momentum.